Hey everyone, welcome to the Kitchen of the Camo Cook. I'm Jim Willis. About a month ago or so, I was listening to this podcast from our friends over at the Fish Hunt Forever podcast, and they were out in Devil's Lake and they were fishing with some friends with AGLOW, the Association of Great Lakes Outdoors Writers. Now, host Brett Amundsen and the AGLOW president Kevin Paulson were talking, and they were discussing, how they were going out for sushi that night and all that out in Devil's Lake, and they kind of somehow got around the idea of perch sushi. So I was like, this sounds weird, but nori in hand, I'm gonna give it a try. Now I scoured my freezer to try and find perch fillets, but I didn't have any luck. But I did find some walleye. So it's not perch for sushi. Sorry Brett, sorry Kevin, but I'm doing walleye sushi. So I gotta do what I gotta do. Walleye it is. So I'm going to put a heck of a little Wisconsin twist on this whole walleye sushi. So, primarily because Wisconsin is the best walleye state. Sorry, Minnesota. So, first thing we got to do here, I got some sushi rice, and I'm going to show you how to make the rice, because the rice is actually the most important part of any sushi roll. So, here we go. Okay, first step you're going to do for your sushi rice, get yourself a strainer, measuring cup. Now I'm going to do 2 cups of rice. So I got 1. Yeah, let's just dump this in here. And I got 2 cups of the short grain sushi rice. Now first thing I'm going to do, always important, you got to rinse your rice. Make sure you rinse it all good and nice. And that's going to take out all the starches that are on it. Put it in your pan. Now sushi rice is going to get 2.5 cups of water to 2 cups of rice. 1, 2.5, and put it on the stove. Okay, I've turned off my heat here. I've got all my rice all nice and absorbed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you on to the next step, which is seasoning your rice. Now, it's important you can't just use regular just rice, because that'll have no flavor. It'll actually, it's not too good. You want some flavor to it. Now, any self-respecting sushi chef will make his own sushi seasoning, which is just pretty much a combination of rice vinegar, sugar, and salt. And, there's a few other variations that some chefs put in it, but for ease of the video, I figured I'd just use some of this sushi seasoning. It is the rice vinegar, it's the sugar, it's the salt that's already in it, so it's all mixed up. It kind of just makes it easier, for less creative, but it's easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a little splash of this, put it in there, mix it around, get it all coated with that, because the vinegar, what it does in sushi is it creates the proper pH. That's why you can, serve it with the raw fish and everything else, because it's not going to harbor bacteria because it's got the vinegar in there. And it flavor. So, let's see how much I got here. Put a little bit more. Alright. Now when I got the vinegar, or the sushi seasoning, so to speak, all mixed into the rice, that's a little better. And set it off to the side, and then let it cool down. You want to let it cool down all the way. Throw it in the fridge for a little while, whatever. But I'm going to let it cool down, and then I'll show you the next step on making my walleye sushi rolls. Okay, so as I'm waiting for the rice to get done cooling down, I'm going to go ahead and make the sauce up ahead of time. So this is how I'm going to make my special sauce for this walleye sushi roll. Okay, first thing we're going to do for the sauce is I got some mayonnaise right here. I'm going to get that into the bowl. Then I got some dill relish. A little bit of squirty squirt of that into there. Got just a couple drops of lemon juice. And some Where's Your Sister sauce. A couple little dashes of that in there. Yeah, maybe a little more. There we go. Give that a good mix. Yeah, I know you're just probably going to call it tartar sauce, but let's just use our imagination. This is some fancy sushi sauce that you get in some high-end sushi restaurant. It's not tartar sauce. And now that we got those accomplished, let's go on to preparing the walleye. Now, normally I'd have my big fancy sushi knife when I'm doing sushi because I used to do it in restaurants, so I have a sashimi knife. So I'm breaking out my trusty dusty fillet knife for this one just because it's a walleye. Why not? Okay, so I've got my walleye fillet here. Now I still got the skin on that. I'm actually going to take that off. Just going to cut this fillet right off there. Got a little bit of belly meat here, but not too worried about it. Got that in there. Now I'm going to go down and make these strips. Got that one. Here's another one. Take the skin off. Better take it all off. Make more strips. Okay, and now that I got them all sliced up, I'm just going to throw them in the bowl and set them off to the side. And a lot of people think, you know, sushi, the first thing they think of is raw fish, but there's lots of different kinds. There's all these deep fried, tempura fried shrimp and tempura crabs and all that are in sushi. So it's not really all raw fish. There is a lot of cooked fish. And tempura got me thinking, beer batter? And of course we're in Wisconsin, so I'm going to use a Moon Man here. It's only the only nuclearist one I had. I couldn't use spotted cow. So I got this. So let's do beer battered walleye inside that sushi instead of tempura. But we'll do it tempura style. So I'm going to take a mixing bowl here. I got 2 cups of my tempura mix. This is the one I picked up. It's just a Kikkoman tempura mix. There's lots of different ones out there, but I got 2 cups of that into my mixing bowl. And then 1 beer. Give that a good mix. Now you want a good thick, almost not quite pancake batter consistency, but about that. You want it good and thick. Okay, once you get it all mixed into there, just make sure it kind of looks a little bit on the thick side. You want to be able to get a good coating. I'm actually going to top off a little bit more into here. Thicken it up a little bit more. And that looks a little better. Now the walleye itself will actually cook up pretty quick, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assemble the roll, the casing for the roll, the rice, and the nori paper. Okay, first thing you're going to want to get is you're going to want to get these bamboo sushi mats. You can get these almost anywhere nowadays. I wrap mine in plastic wrap so that way none of this gets stuck in the bamboo. It makes it easier for cleaning. I just take the plastic wrap off. And then we got our nori paper. This is what I picked up for this one. There's lots of different brands out there. You're going to notice 2 sides. You're going to notice a smooth side and you're going to notice a rough side. The rough side is where you're going to want to put your rice. So it all depends on which way you want to roll it. If you want the rice on the outside or the rice on the inside. This one is going to be the rice on the inside with the seaweed on the outside. So I'm just going to put a bunch right here in the middle. Now it's been a long time since I've made sushi, so I might not be as well practiced. Please don't pick on my technique. I'm kind of rusty. So, you're going to want to leave at the end of your wrap just a little bit of space. Stuff a little bit into there. You want to try and make it as even as you can through the entire thing and really not too thick. You know, 3-4 kernels deep probably. That'll be good. Okay, now that we got that done, let's move on to the walleye. Now the one thing to keep in mind with tempura is you want to make sure your oil is up to temperature and hot, because being that it's a liquid batter and not a dry, it's gonna just release off of there right away if your oil isn't hot enough. So you need to make sure it's hot before you put your food into it to cook it, otherwise it's gonna be a mess. So, one way I like to do that, I'm just testing my oil. I'm just taking a drop of water out of my little Black Lab espresso mug, just to drop in there and see if it pops and sizzles right away, which it did a little bit, but I don't think it's quite there. I want to make sure the oil's hot. Okay, now that my oil is pretty much up to temperature here, I'm going to take my walleye here. Now, the one thing I noticed I did is I cut a few of these chunks a little bit wide. For these rolls, you're not going to want those. You're going to want, I mean, this one's perfect. It's just a long, straight rectangle instead of the big flat piece. So if you got a big flat piece like this, just cut it in half again. It's all good. So what I'm going to do is take my tempura batter here. Make sure you give it a mix if it's been sitting there for a little bit, because it will start to settle out. It is a pretty thick batter. And I'm going to take my walleye fillets and just dunk them straight into the batter here and then into the oil. Alright, you just drop one by one into the oil. If you don't see that bubble, you're not hot. I'm going to actually kick that up a little bit more there. Kick up the temperature. You want to see it bubble instantly. And you don't want to just drop it. Let it float and let it slowly go down. That kind of avoids it sticking to the bottom, because if you just let it drop and go to the bottom, it's going to just drop right to the bottom. And you just let them bounce around in there until they become a golden brown. Make sure to kind of turn them and spin them to make sure they don't, one, stick to the bottom of your pan and stick to each other. If they stick to each other, it becomes a mess. That's why you got to lay them in there separately, and you can't just flop a big handful of walleye fillets in. If you do that, you'll have a big chunk of walleye. See, this one has actually got stuck together a little bit, except it'll be a lot worse if you do that. So then you get areas of raw batter on it, so you're going to want to make sure you move it around a little bit. Okay, as you can see, they're starting to get that good golden brown color into it. So I'm going to pull them out of the grease, put it onto a paper towel. And now that I got all the fish out of the fryer, I'm going to do one more little thing here. And then I'm just going to take some of my tempura batter here and just drizzle it right into the oil. Don't use too much. Get that stirring around and break it up. And what I'm doing is I'm making, you see a lot of the times in sushi restaurants, the tempura crunch that they use for, your crunchy tuna rolls and your crunchy salmon rolls. And so I'm just gonna, as soon as that starts browning up, it really only takes 20 seconds in the oil to really start browning up. I'm gonna pull it out of the oil and put it on the paper towel with my walleye here. Just another little added touch to our roll. And now, time to roll the sushi. Okay, so I got my nori paper here with my rice on that I made up before we fried the walleye. What I'm going to do is take some of this walleye right here, line it up from end to end, then using the mat, it'll kind of help keep your fingers out of it. You're going to roll till it gets over and give it a good pinch. Use the bamboo mat to help you roll, and it helps you roll real tight. And you want to get it good and even. And there we got our first roll. And then what we're just going to want to do here is, I usually just, now you got to need a sharp knife for this and work slow, but I usually take the end off just because it's messy. But then you're going to go at probably like 3/4 inch slices. All the way down the roll. And there's your maki roll, and we'll just slide it over onto this plate over here, where we got our gourmet sushi sauce. I'm going to put a dollop right there. Swoosh. And then we're going to take our maki rolls. And just line them up onto the plate. I am going to take some of our crunch, a little decoration, a little something else for you to scrape up and on. And there you have it. Ladies and gentlemen, I may be the first person to invent beer battered walleye sushi. Wisconsin style. This is freaking good. Try it out, let me know what you think.
If you're from Wisconsin and you can't just dig this, you're just not from Wisconsin. Delicious.